Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm here at Spitfire Studio at Warren Hewitt's place. You guys know where Warren from, Produce Like a Pro. Warren's a good buddy. We've been doing a lot of cool things over the last year or two.
And more to come.
Okay, so yeah, Warren wanted to jump in and help me do some viewers' comments, maybe answer some of your questions, because Warren's a little higher up the chain than me. He's not a home recording guy. He works with giant bands like Aerosmith, like really cool stuff like that band, and then maybe some not cool, so cool stuff like Black Veil Brides, but we'll forgive him for that.
That was a good fun album. Okay. Oh, and Ace, though. Ace,
yeah,
come on, Ace is cool.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and then, 5 Seconds of Summer. Ouch. Oh, no. Seriously, though, it's been an amazing experience. I'm like, even the bands that I might not dig so much, it's really cool to talk to somebody who's working at that level, because it's been so educational for me. And then I'm passing on what I've learned to you guys. So that's how that works. So
we found the Behringer thing together when we went to
Ulrich's.
Ulrich's, yeah.
And Ulrich's still really mad at me. Seriously, though, and it's really cool. Like, I make it down to California here every once in a while, and it's always a great time to have Warren on the show, so he's going to help me answer some of my questions. So
here we go.
Let's get to it.
What recording gear would you recommend for a garage band making heavy rock metal on a tight budget?
I suppose something that has at least 8 inputs, so you can get a full drum kit on there.
At least.
For me, you can do... I want to ask your opinion on this, because you can get something with 4 inputs. Of course, you can do kick, snare, overheads. But let's face it, if you're doing metal, you want definition of your toms.
Sure.
And while it's cool to have a 4-mic drum set, we all love that sound, we're all Zeppelin fans, etc. When you're talking metal and massive, dense guitars, is there any way you can get those toms to scream out with a pair of overheads?
Absolutely not. I've tried it before. It's a lot of fun, but it doesn't quite work.
Trust him.
I definitely recommend an 8-channel interface. The Audient ASP, the 880, is that it? I think that's the one.
We both use it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's about $800, maybe a little bit more. Absolutely magnificent. Highly recommend checking it out. But that's more of a breakout kit for the desktop unit. You still need to hook it up via ADAT, but definitely take a look at the Audient stuff. The great thing about it is you can buy a desktop unit with 2 or 4 mic pre's in it, and then you can break it out as you get more money saved up to buy more gear. Definitely worth checking out. Also, for bargain basement stuff, definitely check out, the Samson drum mic kit. That's only a few $100, maybe $300-400, and you can do an awful lot. They're not stellar, but they will definitely work.
Yeah, there's like the Samson, and there's a Shaw's like 600, I think, and then there's the Lewitt's like 809 or so.
Yeah, the Lewitt's are just stellar.
But all 3 of those are great.
Yeah. The like I said, the Samsons, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them.
Hey Glenn, I'm recording on a budget and all I have is a Scarlett 2i2 interface and I plug the guitars directly into it. My question is, how do I properly set the input levels of the clean direct signal if I'm going to use high gain amp sims? How high/low should it be? What about bass? Cheers from Egypt.
Just record it the same way. It doesn't matter if you're going to use a high gain, low gain, medium gain, whatever. Just get a good, nice tone in there at a decent level. You don't want to be clipping. And all the adjustment, all the gain, everything is inside the plugin.
Exactly. Yeah, just make sure you're clean and not too close or not too quiet and not too loud. Don't clip it. You want to kind of get in what they call the Goldilocks zone.
Yeah, and I think that this is one of the things, and I completely understand why people get confused, because it is confusing. If you're measuring peaks, you can maybe hit as much, almost hit 0. If most of your signal's around here, and it's like -20 or something, you maybe want to boost it a little bit, and I'm going to go against the grain here, but the odd clipped transient in a 3-minute song is meaningless. Like 3 clips, who gives a rat's? You want to be printing a decent level somewhere, -20, -18, there's so many different opinions. But the reality is like, it might sound silly, but it's kind of common sense.
Yeah. The other thing is make sure you're recording 24-bit. If you're just starting out, make sure you're at 24-bit. That way you've got the depth and the noise floor is low enough so it's not going to be a problem if you have a somewhat quieter signal. You can boost it up and you're not going to pay a penalty.
Yep. And like I said, I don't care about the odd 1 or 2 clip transients in a DI performance.
Exactly.
Schnizzle happens.
Same thing with drums. If like a tom clips once in a while, that's fine. If a tom clips on the entire track, fuck that guy.
Yeah. It's different, yeah. If your signal's clipping the whole time, reach for that gain knob and bring it down. But if it's a very, very occasional, once or twice, 3 times maybe, in a full song, we can deal.
Dude, by the way, that is so awesome that you're making music in Egypt. That's so cool. I love hearing from you guys from that part of the world. So, if you're in the Middle East or somewhere, where metal's, it's not really famous for metal, hey, say hi, leave a comment. Let us know where you're from, because I always love hearing from you guys.
Yeah, that is the amazing thing about what we do, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, incredible.
Okay.
Good luck to you.
Glenn, I noticed you typically mic your cabs and avoid using IRs. Any particular reason? Is the minor improvement in sound worth the inconvenience?
Well, what a strange question.
Yes.
And you'll know more at a later date.
Yes.
You should probably answer that specifically, but I do still predominantly mic up. Why is that? Well, that's because I'm in my studio, this environment, every single day of my life. So I have a couple of cabs out there with mics on it, ready to go like that. Now, the beautiful thing about IRs is when you're not in an environment where you have your own cabs and you can blast the heck out of them and you're actually sitting in your bedroom, it's a wonderful thing. I'm sure if you're at home and you're not in your studio and you just want to open up a laptop, IRs they're amazing.
Absolutely, but yeah, that's the thing. My studio is like in my backyard, so it's nothing for me to, just walk out of the studio and mic up a cab because everything's soundproof, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, but yeah, that's the great thing. If you're in your kitchen, your bathroom, and
hotel room,
exactly, and you want, a killer tone, IRs are definitely the way to go. Absolutely, especially if you don't have the budget for a whole bank of cabinets.
And when I think about it, I go back to, a zillion years ago, 1998. I was working with Dave Jordan, and he was working on, what was the Offspring record called?
Oh, no.
He was doing this Offspring record, but Americana. Thank you, Brandon, over there. Okay, so you might not be Offspring fans, but it's an interesting story. It was early amp farm.
Oh, okay.
And this is something that I still occasionally do, and I'm going to do more and more of. He was blending real tones. I mean, this is Dave Jordan, who recorded Alice in Chains, for goodness sake, with 5 amps aside to get these walls of guitars. This is a guy who knows what he's doing, and he had El Dorado at the time, this incredible studio, and he still used amp farm, and he'd blend it with the amps recorded, and for him that was his favorite guitar sound. So even for those of us that do have tons of amps and stuff, the ability to blend virtual and simulated sounds using obviously IRs is an amazing thing, because now we can get massive guitar sounds.
Oh shit, now I want to try that. Damn. Here's another great thing about IRs though. Okay, here's the thing, especially recording metal guitars, it takes a very long time to learn how to tweak your tones out, tweak your amp, and place the mics and get all the acoustics right and all the rest of it. There's definitely a big learning curve there. There's a lot of opportunities to make mistakes. So another huge advantage to using an IR is it's already recorded properly.
Yes. Yep. And if you can get some really incredible guys that have recorded it for you, that's better still.
Absolutely. More on that in the future. You guys will find out really soon.
Hey Glenn, I recorded guitar for my band's demo, and when it was finished, the producer re-recorded my guitar tracks with his own, and my band thought I wouldn't notice. When I confronted them about it, they told me that was the industry norm if my original tracks weren't perfect enough. I called bullshit and was kicked out, but I wanted to know if that's something you've heard about before.
Oh, ask me that one. Ask me that question.
Okay.
I want to answer this question.
Okay, here's the thing. Okay, you know what? I've got my own opinions on it, but let's talk to the guy who works at top level.
I have a very, very strong opinion on this. It is a producer's job to get performances out of artists. This makes me a little mad. It is a producer's job to get performances out of an artist. If going into a recording session, you have a weak member in your band, because it seems like the band are in cahoots with the producer, you've got to deal with that. You've got to go into pre-production. You've got to work on it. And if they're not up to snuff, then you have to be upfront. I've learned this the hard way. And I just talked about Dave Jordan. Dave Jordan told me he has never, in every record he ever made, some of the greatest rock albums that many of you guys, he's never ever fired a musician once. And it's his job to sit there with the bass player, the guitar player, whatever, and work his arse off. Because I have an artist at the moment that I'm working with, and she wants to play bass on a track. And we spent 4 hours getting this bass line done. But I'll tell you what, the next bass line she comes to do, maybe it's 3 hours. The one after that's 2 hours. The one after that. And when she leaves this studio, she's going to be a better musician. She's going to learn something from it. And yeah, I know time, I know budgets, I know all those kind of things, but then you have to take that into account before you go into a studio. If you're a musician or you're a producer or an engineer, it is your job to bring it. And if you as a guitar player wasn't bringing it, well, yes, but you should have been able to hear that, because I know what it's like to hear it after the fact. Okay, so quick story. I did an album with a band, and the bass player, I spent 4 or 5 days with the bass player getting the bass lines down. And at the end of it, we still weren't happy, and I ended up actually having Scott Schreiner from Weezer come in and replay the bass lines. I was talking to Jim Scott about it, and Jim Scott told me this story that when he did a Whiskey Town record, Ryan Adams' band, they had the same experience, and they had to replay it. And he said to me, he went to a Whiskey Town show, and I was either the bass player or the rhythm guitar player came up to him and let him have it. Because he had found out, because you can't hide that stuff, he'd found out that he got replaced. So Jim Scott told that to me. So what did I do? I got on the phone with the bass player within 5 minutes and called him and told him what had happened. And he was pissed. He was upset. He was upset he was replaced. But he was like, I respect you for telling me that had happened, and I didn't find out after the album came out. You didn't hide it. So ever since that day, if I do replace somebody, they have to know. They have to know, and they have to know why. You have to know, and it has to be after, like I did. You spend a long time working with it. So I think it's a long response, but I feel very passionate about that because a lot of kids are going into the studio with their $2,000 that they've saved to go into a room with a guy or a girl, in their studio, and you have to respect that that's $2,000 extra that not many of us have flying around.
That's true.
And it is our job as producers and engineers to frickin' bring it. To go in there and go, hey man, you've got to try, put your finger here, you're bending the string out of tune. All the reasons, you need to be working and you need to bring it.
I think there's only one time we really replaced a bass player without his knowledge, and that was going back to about 2000. And this is the case, he was just kind of in the band because to be in a band, he wasn't really a musician, and he wasn't putting any money into the record anyway.
Right.
So it's kind of like, it was just kind of like, hey, we'll leave your bass here. So we have the guitar player recut his bass the next day, and it was great. And, to this day, he still doesn't know we replaced him. And it's like, you know what? And I'm sure he would have been fine with that because it wasn't his passion. But this is a case where this guy clearly was upset that he got replaced. And so, yeah, maybe the producer should have taken a little more time with him. Maybe his band should have, that kind of thing, too.
I just think it would have been just better if they work on the songs and say, hey, man, you're not cutting it. Let's try, give the guy a chance. If when you find out after the fact, that's what sucks.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I do know...
It definitely would feel like a betrayal.
I've met those guys in the back of their mind. There's a little bit of... Shouldn't say this. Some producers got a little bit of an ego and they want to be the guy that does it.
Yeah.
And so they have an agenda like, don't worry, man, I can redo that. That's not my job. And I learned that also the hard way with working with Dave Sardi. We were doing a Hot Heat record, and I picked up the guitar and started playing, and I was playing some guitar, and he goes, wow, Warren, you're a really good guitar player. Don't ever play in front of the band.
He is a pretty good guitar player.
Yeah, but the point is like, I'm not there to show you how I can shred, man. That's not my job. My job is to get a performance out of the artist. And,
right.
And I think that's always a fine line. And I feel for it on two levels. I think the big mistake was not identifying maybe that the guitar parts weren't good enough. They weren't being performed good enough before you go into the studio. That's a sort of mutual band pre-production thing that should be dealt with before you go in the room.
Yeah.
And then when you're in the room, if the producer is struggling getting a performance out of you, he needs to say. It's his job. The producer needs to go, hey man, you're not cutting it. I'll redo this.
Yeah.
But why don't we just work on this one song that you're close on, make it a positive experience.
Well, yeah, the one thing I'll say is, if somebody's really not cutting it, is I'll be like, okay, why don't you go, in a local band situation, obviously, I'll be like, why don't you go home and practice this?
Yeah.
Come back in a couple weeks when you know it. That way you're not wasting everyone's time, including mine.
Yeah, and then that way
and you're
maybe
not wasting your band's time.
Maybe the guy goes back to his checking account, finds $300 for a few hours work, and comes back and does it with you. You know
exactly,
what I mean?
and I'd rather do that.
I would rather, because I want... God, you know what it's like when you're a guy and you go in the studio for the first time?
Oh, yeah.
This has got to be a positive experience.
Absolutely, I agree.
And that's how you get more work. As people watching this, producers and engineers, that's how you get work, by building trust with your clients.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. So there you go. Don't be a dick.